Hello and welcome to Boomer 11 Live. And today we're going to be talking about PSG as a team and their Champions League project, which has been failing time and time again. And I have with me Abel and a special guest, Austin. Welcome to the channel, Austin, and welcome Abel as well. Thank you for joining us. Um, let's start right away. PSG, another oil money team who's not been able to win the Champions League. What is it with oil money and Champions League? Is there an issue that clubs who have oil money can't win the Champions League?
Really
Abel,
good
let's start
start.
off with you.
Okay, I'll talk. Yeah, because I know why that question is towards me, but
Oh,
but
actually, you very well know why the question is towards you.
maybe I'll just say, it's just weird. I do not know. Maybe it's some curse or something. Oil money clubs can't win the league. But to say the least, I would say, as of now, from whatever we've seen from PSG, it's been a bad project which was put in place. They've been talking about the project. They brought in Luis Ocampos from Lille, who won them the league on a couple of seasons ago. So that was a whole project, right? To build a team maybe for the future, but just not work out. They got all the big names across Europe, but they just do not have a team. So that was for me the biggest downfall for this team. If you look at the last seven Champions League runs of PSG, they've only made it out of round of 16 twice. And they've been knocked out in the round of 16 five times. That's a lot of times. Now, when we took in the largest scheme of things. Last season, lost to Real Madrid after having the 2-0 lead, rather, because Mbappe had scored in the second leg and got that 2-0 lead going into the latter half of the game. But then Benzema coming in, just taking them apart. Now, last game, they were nowhere in the picture in the last game because I thought they were the worst team throughout the 180 minutes which were played. And that's what disappoints me. How is a team which has so many stars just unable to cross the line? Now, when we talk about oil money at large, I personally think, Dave just is right. I think Spurs will win the. I mean, they were very close to win the Champions League in 2019, if I remember. So I think it is that kind of a thing for PSG as well. As so they just can't cross the line, man. It's just bad tactics, bad management. It's been a lot of other issues off the field, which is making them play such shit football on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, Devjit Bodke says that Spurs will win the Champions League before PSG. That would be an interesting competition to see who gets the first ever Champions Trophy. But Austin, what do you think? Do you also feel it's also because you're paying Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi, through the biggest stars in the world, but then you're really not buying players as per the roles, and you're really buying them for their stardom and for the shirt sales rather than fitting them into a system and giving a manager the full control of your team.
Correctly pointed out by Abel. Firstly, they're buying big names, but there's just something lacking there. I mean, the project in itself, it's one thing to play young players, but it's another thing. They're not up to the mark. Even the players they've bought in the recent past, Fabian Ruiz hasn't been up to the mark, and they are trusting the younger players. That's one good thing, but I don't think they can be trusted yet. We've seen Zaire Emery's performance, Ekitike's performance. It wasn't up to the mark. It was. I mean, it's good. You can win a lot of games in League One, but I don't think they're up to the mark for the Champions League.
I mean, he's right as well because I personally felt, getting a 16-year-old to play Champions League like Zaire Emery in the first leg, I've not seen any team do that. I mean, just look at the bench, right? We just saw that post where Bayern's bench had Mane, Nabri, Sane, and here you have what Etiquette, Zaire Emery. Then you had what Mukiele coming in. I mean, look at the stark contrast in the names who are sitting on the bench. And now that is the difference. Now, if you have to win Champions League, it's not the first 11 who can get you there. You need to have a very strong squad. I mean, I was shocked when I opened FIFA 23 today and I was like just looking at PSG squad at large, including reserves, and I'm like, my goodness, this is the worst team if they get a couple of injuries. And exactly what's happening, man. First 11 is so overpowered on paper, at least, but they just can't actually, try translate that performance of those name and stature on the pitch. Now that's the worst thing you can have as a team. And for Galtier, I think he's just confused. He's just confused as a manager as what is the next step going to be. Now that's the worst possible position you can be as a manager of any possible football club. And I think sacking Tuchel 2 years ago was were a bad decision in itself, because Tuchel could have possibly taken this team to any heights, took them to Champions League final, which they always dreamt of, lost on a very close game to Bayern Munich, because I still thought PSG was a better team in that final. And now, if you look back at things, it's been just chaotic after that.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it also because we always talk about how in football, it is supposed to be a manager's team, and the manager is supposed to run the team, not the board of directors, not the players. That's one sport where you feel the coach has so much control. But when it comes to PSG, you reckon it's been the players that have been running the team. You're playing, as I already mentioned, you're paying Neymar, Messi, Mbappe such hefty salaries that your wage bill is so full of just three players. You really don't have the space or the money to go ahead and maybe buy players who give you more of a well-rounded setup rather than a very a pointy sort of a attack, but not much substance on the bench or even behind the players. Is that something you feel where even the managers themselves or managers that have come before them really don't have much of a say when it comes to PSG's tactics or PSG's transfer window?
Yeah, I think it's always been a problem when big names are involved. The managers do sometimes have to take the back seat, and especially with players like Messi and Mbappe and Ramos, I think the coach is under a lot of pressure, and of course he's going to be criticized a lot for this. But the problem, I think, lies with the squad depth again.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he's not wrong in saying that, because when you have Messi in your team, I think there's a lot of focus on Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar to do the bulk of work, but that leaves a lot of hole. If you remember that match which they had in the first leg, there was occasions where I felt PSG was just nowhere there in the midfield. I mean, when you're coming up against Kimmich and Goretzka, you need to have a midfield to actually compete against them. And when you have such big holes in your midfield, which helps teams to actually run the entire play, I mean, that is going to backfire in some bad way. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, look at Verratti. Verratti is such a good player, but look at the mistake which he did. He was put under pressure by Bayern Munich and he lost the ball. And that is what it
Yeah.
is. Verratti is good, but Verratti is not up to the mark when it comes to handling the pressure, maybe recovering the ball and controlling the midfield. Fabian Ruiz has been substandard. He mentioned about Fabian Ruiz already. He's been very substandard this season. Renato Sanchez, I've not seen him anywhere in the pitch. And so when you have such a midfield, how do you win matches? There's a lot of owners on the strike force. But as I mentioned, even before when we did the preview of Bayern versus PSG, Messi have always done well when there's a strong midfield behind him. Then Messi dropping in the middle of the park does not really help PSG's cause. How deep can he drop? There were occasions where he was dropping in as a center midfielder or deep as center midfielder, trying to recover the ball and run the
Yeah.
play from there. It doesn't happen. You have with Nuno Mendes and Hakimi, but you just do not have the structure in the midfield. That's what I personally feel.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday also we spoke about it, right? How the midfield was lined up with five players, most of whom you felt, I think, you had Vitinha and I mean, I forgot the player who was on the other side, but there were five players definitely there. And then you also had, what do you say, Messi and Mbappe leading that goal striking force, but there was not one player who could, be that clinical striker, the goal source really, because both Mbappe and Messi like to play off a striker or play off a goal scorer, a clinical goal scorer. Now, yesterday again we saw that both Messi and Mbappe were forced to go deeper into that defensive formation of Bayern Munich, and they were struggling to really keep themselves on the ball. Both Messi got tackled many a times. I think the closest they came was when Vitinha made that when Vitinha had an open goal and he could not really force it in. Or was it Fabian Ruiz? I can't place the player, and which is a very weak shot as well, which was much easier for Delict to really clear. So now, isn't that another issue with PSG? This PSG team, they've got Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe up the top, but none of them are really those clinical goal scorers. They are in the team to create chances, but there isn't that one player who's just there to score goal, like someone like a Harry Kane, for instance.
I mean, Mbappe has been doing that job for them for a long time, but like you said, he likes to feed off a proper number nine. You're correct in saying that. Then again, it's good to have Messi on the pitch. Obviously, he's an amazing playmaker, no doubt about that. But again, yes, and one injury, that was it. That's all it took to break them apart. Neymar's absence was really felt on the pitch.
Absolutely. I mean, that is very true because, even if you look in the French national team, how Mbappe plays, he really relies on a Giroud or a Griezmann to be
Yeah.
running through the middle
Yeah.
of the pitch.
Yeah, I
And that's
mean,
something which
that's my
even
point,
Messi
isn't
left.
it, Abel? That's my point, isn't it, Abel and Austin? Where you look at Neymar, he relies on the likes of Firmino, Jesus, or Richarlison, or so many other players in the Brazilian team who are ready to score a goal for a cross or a pass which comes in from Neymar. Messi, in a very similar way, relied on Julian Alvarez, and on the other hand, Mbappe relied on Benzema or Olivier Giroud. But now in this PSG team, they have to rely on each other. We spoke about it yesterday as well, where both Messi and Mbappe started on a very wide forwards line, which was again very, what do you say, out of ordinary, not something you see in football, because you see at least one player in front of the goal, right? But because of the kind of nature of that Messi and Mbappe play, you had to put them wider so that you give them that bit more breathing space where they don't come into each other's way. And isn't that also a reason why it was easier for Bayern Munich to defend them?
You know. Yeah, I mean, to be very fair on that, well, Mbappe, one demand which he had put forth in front of the PSG board was that he wanted a number nine to be alongside him because he's so comfortable playing as a left winger, and in the PSG squad, he's not getting the opportunity to play as a left winger, and that's been his biggest complaint. That's one of the reasons why he was very upset at the PSG board, and he was also upset at the fact that. He was not given that freedom when he was given so much of promises to be at PSG, to stay in PSG, that number nine, who possibly Icardi could have been, who possibly Icardi was whenever he was starting with Mbappe. And that I thought was Mbappe's best when Mbappe was coming and cutting in from left hand side, cutting inside the defense. And that makes Mbappe even more threatening. If he plays as a left striker, at least on a 4-4-2 system, that makes him more potent. But considering all these factors, PSG still do not have players in the bench to come out as strikers. Who do they have at this point? They barely have any striker to come into the lineup. Now that is how bad the situation is at PSG. I thought PSG, one thing they should have let, or they should have possibly done, was maybe get one of these three big names out and then build a system around the next one, because these three are extremely stubborn when it comes to positioning, and modern football can't afford three players who do not do anything off the ball. Now that is like playing with eight men literally. Now that is a worst, or maybe seven outfield players. You need to play with 10 on 10 in these modern day football. At least you should play with nine. If you have one player who do not do off the ball work, that's still fine. Now, why is Liverpool why have Liverpool been so successful over the last 5 years? Their off the ball work rate has been exceptional. For example, last match when Liverpool played Manchester United, the work rate which they had off the ball was exceptional once again. So that is the difference, and I think Austin also will agree with me on the same.
Completely. I think Gaultier thought that he was prepared without Neymar, and he was prepared with the 3-5-2. I think personally, I think he should have given Ekitike a chance to be that number nine, to fill the shoes of Neymar there. I mean, obviously, not to do Neymar's job, but be that number nine, be there, be in that line of attack. So, but I think they need to go back to the desk. There's a lot of work to be done, and of course, with the injuries, they did not prepare for this. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys reckon about, like, for example, a team like Man City, right? They've never had a classic number nine or someone who could be that goal scorer at least. But then what Pep Guardiola did employ was a false nine until the arrival of Holland in a very recently. You reckon PSG can do something like that instead of trying to find or force a player who isn't a number nine to come into place?
I think it's a very, very different kind of football that Guardiola plays there, and what League One demands. But they do need to change their tactics, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Guardiola with Galtier, that's the first
Yeah.
mistake you did, Jaren. Number one, you should never bring them on the same book. Now, talking about Manchester City have been so successful in such a big league. It's not League One you're talking about
Yeah.
Premier League. And I know they've been unsuccessful in terms of getting that Champions League. I mean, they went down to a very good Chelsea squad on that day, and they went down to a very good Real Madrid squad. I still think, one of the I did mention this previously as well. I think Haaland does not really give this team wings. Rather, it kind of thrusts down what Manchester City is all about. If you look at what Manchester City really stands for, is not relying on a particular player as a target man. Now that is Manchester City's biggest strength. Now they went off that. They had to make so many squad changes just to fit in a particular piece. Now that is something which is so unlike Manchester City and Guardiola, and they have suffered a lot this season as well because of that very factor. Though Haaland has pinned in 30 odd goals this season, but that does not help them to play as a team. Now, there are two ways to look into it. Whether have you unleashed Haaland's full potential? Can you put in more long balls? Can you actually make Haaland a complete strike force? Because Haaland still have to do a lot of other things, which does not make him a complete number 9 or target man. That is also possible, but Manchester City will not do that because Manchester City's system is all about fluidity, trying to get interchange the wings, trying to play through the width, use the width if need be, get the wing backs involved, tuck in if need be, use the interior space of half chances pretty well. So that is what Manchester City, what they stand for. For example, Gabriel Jesus, he was not happy in Manchester City because he was deployed as a right winger. A similar thing which Guardiola did when he came to Barcelona in 2009. Samuel Eto'o was told to play on the right wing because he's a number 9 at the end of the day. So he was unhappy with that. So in Guardiola's system, you'll have to be fluid. That's one thing which Haaland doesn't give you, and that's one of the reasons why Manchester City have suffered as well. So in my personal opinion, Manchester City are looking at a transition next season, trying to bring in more players. I think Bellingham is right on top of their chart, so they can start in a new cycle, new generation, new cycle in totality. It'll all depend on where they finish this year in Champions League. Having Haaland is great, but having Haaland also means it restricts you a lot. For example, similar thing, right? Haaland doesn't do a lot of off the ball work, which Gabriel Jesus did give you, or what Aguero used to give you to a certain extent as well. So now that is where Manchester City has really faced the brunt of things, and I hope finishing in the Champions League, that does not really stop them. I hope this is the year for them.
No, but still, I mean, what do you reckon about a false 9 though? Do you reckon false 9 is a possibility for PSG? If not Galtier, another manager who can bring that through.
I mean, I think we can take this question up, but I'll just like to answer this question first. See, the same issue, right? Mbappe, if he goes to Madrid, he does not want to play as a number 9. He wants to play left wing, and you already have a Vinny who plays there. So the issue is, if Mbappe goes to Madrid, where does Vinny go? Mbappe is very clear. If you're taking me, I want to play on the left wing. He's very very stubborn on that, Jaren, and he's very very stubborn. I don't know. For his age, he needs to be stubborn, and he also has a point. He's best suited playing as a number. He's best suited playing on the wings. He can cut in. He can really create those impact coming through, and that's why Madrid are so much more interested in signing another striker as well. Possibly, I don't know. They are also looking at Haaland at 2025 and to bring in a system of Haaland, Mbappe, and Vinicius, which I think is excellent. Maybe one of them can go to another ring. I think Vinny might face a bunch of things if Mbappe comes in. And Mbappe, I do not know, man. I really do not know if he's going to leave PSG. If Fiorentina Perez is hurt with what Mbappe did last time, he's a man with a big ego, man. At the end of the day, he's a man with a big ego.
Yeah.
He doesn't like players turning down Madrid like that. And Madrid is a prestigious club. You don't turn down Madrid like that. If you turn down Madrid, then you are going to face the brunt of things as well. Imagine if you would have gone to Madrid, he would have been a Champions League winner last season.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably much more comfortable than how they ended up winning, to be very fair. But there's also a comment by Azil where he says that Messi should leave. There are rumors that Messi is not going to extend his contract, isn't it? There's also rumors that Neymar is going to be shipped off next year. Let's start with Neymar because I think that's probably the beginning, right? The start of this PSG project where the such groundbreaking was that transfer that La Liga came with the rule that every player who comes into La Liga post Neymar leaving requires a release clause, and that's something that's compulsory for every La Liga player now because of what happened with Neymar. But Neymar came into this team trying to win the Ballon d'Or, trying to get out of Messi's shadow. But now he's not only under the shadow of Messi, he's also under the shadow of Mbappe. So things have really not gone well for Neymar and PSG, haven't they? And what do you reckon is the reason for that? You feel they failed to build a system around Neymar, or was it just Neymar himself and the way his football has progressed throughout the years after he left Barcelona.
Talking about the team building system, I think it's flawed. Firstly, bringing in the big names and then trying to build a team around them, I think it's about time they change that.
I mean, yeah, I was also just going through one of the reports right now as Messi should leave. Barcelona have been charged with corruption now.
Oh yeah.
Now that's the worst possible thing. I do not know where this is heading to. See, Spanish football is against Barcelona with Tebas at the helm.
Yeah.
They're trying to put everything on Barcelona because Barcelona is the easy catch with Real Madrid because they are targeting teams who are instigators of Super League, and Barcelona are one of the primary instigators of Super League. They can't catch Madrid because you can't really find a lot of flaws in Madrid's books and other things. At this point, Barcelona are the weak link. They have suffered a lot, so it's easy to put a lot on Barcelona. And now there's another charge. We do not know just charges. It still have to be proven that they paid the vice president of Spanish football, for Spanish league to get the refereeal decisions. There was a similar report done by Marca a couple of weeks, or I think a month ago, where they paid. Basically, what happened in that was it couldn't be proven. So this is another thing. See, there's a lot of things happening against Barcelona. So what that was all about was they paid a particular marketing agency who manages referees. So what they wanted to imply was they paid the referees during 2019 season. And let's be very honest. Come on, Barcelona. If the refereeing decisions have been going against Barcelona in the worst possible way, I don't think if Barcelona pays the referee, that would have been happening.
If they did pay them, I don't think they got their money.
Yeah, it's been a scam. They've been scammed. Barcelona should file a case for getting
I
scammed.
have to ask this, Abel. How does it feel to be a fan of two clubs which are charged in two different leagues with different violations? How does it feel? I mean, how is the feeling?
I
I
feel
think
violent
just
in
to
my
just to
heart.
repeat for people who don't know,
You're breaking up.
Citizen
You're breaking
and
up. I think Premier doesn't want you to tell it.
Man City is obviously
You couldn't. You were not
charged
heard, Jaren, because
with
Jaren, you're breaking up. I think you can join us again.
in the
Jaren, you're breaking
Premier
up.
League when club. I think
You're breaking up. I think you can rejoin.
I'm having a slight network issue. Able to
Yeah, that is what. Even network is
Yeah.
paid, my friend. I'm paying the network, so this is how it works here. So yeah, I mean, what Jaren wanted to imply was that I support Manchester City and Barcelona, as you can see. But to be very fair, I do not know, man. I just feel very violated at this point, to be very honest, as to why my two teams have been going through all this. But nonetheless, I have hopes on the judicial system. As a law student, I believe in justice more than anything else. Allegations can be put in at any day. Barca. Okay, yeah, we've got some. Yeah, that's what. That's what. Does Barca get relegated now? Okay, now we'll take these questions up. So I personally think for Manchester City, it still has to be proven because there's a lot of loopholes in the UEFA rule regulation, regulatory system.
Yeah,
Also
but
the
that's the
Premier
best
League.
part about it, isn't it, Abel? This isn't UEFA who's charged them. It's under the Premier League.
It's the Premier
rules.
League. Yeah, exactly my point. So
So
it
when
still have to
the
be
case
over a period of
previously,
time.
which was decided in court of arbitration, some of the charges were not proved against Manchester
Because it was
City.
time bound. There was statute of
let go, but
limitations.
some of them were time bound. Exactly,
Yeah.
and the Premier League does not have that system of
See, that's the whole
time.
point. See, if there's a loophole
Yeah.
which is in place, you can't. You obviously escape it. It doesn't matter. That's what law is all about. You use the loopholes and you escape it. So
I like how you
you
spoke
might have
about
done.
justice and you speaking about loopholes in the same sense.
Exploiting loopholes.
Exploiting loopholes is a way to go, but at the same time, I think Barcelona's thing is all about justice, and Manchester City is all about loopholes. That's how I like to talk about it in a very much a better way because Tebas have been very open in terms.
He's been
Been
out
very
of Barcelona for some time now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been looking to hunt Barcelona like he really hates it, and he's been very open that he's a Madridista. I don't really mind that. You can support Madrid, but then as a president of the Spanish Footballing Federation, I don't think you can come out there and say it very openly. Then it becomes even more very absurd in terms of who your support is. Whether are you going to tell referees to manage like this? So these kind of things do come up, all the time. But I'm very very scared about Barcelona now because this is the last thing which Barcelona wanted. Bartomeu, he might have done some shit and he would have escaped. and now that Barcelona will have to face it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because I think at max, what might just happen is Barcelona might be suspended for life from participating in any activities related to La Liga. But then I think it's already done because I am expecting that Barcelona fans will not be voting him in anytime soon, or at least in this one lifetime. But let's get back to PSG, isn't it? Where do you reckon now they go from here? You feel that they've tried out superstar players? It's time for them to try a superstar manager, someone who has a track record, someone who's always who knows how to build a team, and if not how to build a team, who knows how to win trophies. And I think that's one thing they've always lacked. They've always got great players, but they've never got the managers to deal with them. Because sometimes you need a taskmaster like Ten Hag to really change things around. I know this comes as an irony because just a few days back, Ten Hag had his worst ever career defeat. But you have to give credit to him. I mean, he's turned this team around. At least one trophy in however long years. It's something that Man United fans have dreamed of. But do PSG need a manager like that? Is it time for them to focus on manager and not the players?
I think you're right. And coming back to what you said, they need a manager who can build a team, or at least a manager who can win trophies. The problem with them is they have been winning trophies. They have been winning League One for many
But that's
years
the
now.
best part about it, isn't it? Their League One position is also now under a lot of threat because I think they've lost quite a lot of points already. It's not as bad as it is for Bayern, but it's still, you do realize maybe it is starting to feel like PSG is losing that grip they had on League One, Liga now for a long time. Now it suddenly feels that grip is losing as well because they are focusing a lot on Champions League, but things are really not working out on both sides, and it just seems like they're losing from both the sides.
Correct. I mean, they obviously have a lot of money, and they went with the Galacticos approach, trying to sign all the big names, trying to get all the big names. And like I said, they have to go back to the desk, rethink their approach, remodel it, and then get back on the field.
I mean, he has a good point when he mentioned Galactico. If you remember, Jaren, before the match started, I didn't mention how Real Madrid failed miserably with the Galactico approach. Sometimes the big names don't give you the trophies. They give you the marketing, they give you a lot of things off the field, but they don't really define legacies. Now, for Real Madrid, what do you remember? Roberto Carlos, David Beckham, Zidane, Raul, Figo, everybody playing together. Nothing. Nothing. They literally had nothing there. Barcelona went on to win the Champions League there. But that's what it is all about, right? At the end of the day, you will be remembered for your trophies, and PSG's whole project was just to win Champions League. They were done winning the league on. They had enough of it, and that's all. Now, talking about which, I personally think what PSG can possibly do is now get a manager like Zidane on board, because Zidane has managed the big names time and time again pretty smoothly with Madrid. Because when Zidane took over Madrid, I think it was in 2015, at the end of 2015 season, after I think who was the manager? Benitez had a bad season. I think Benitez had a horrible season with them. So he took over Real Madrid when Real Madrid was actually struggling through the Carlo Ancelotti's transition, and he had a beautiful time taking it over. There were big egos. Remember, there was a Cristiano Ronaldo, there was a Benzema, there was a Bale, there was Modric, Cruz. But in the way in which he managed them, Zidane is not a man of tactics. He has got his tactics, but the fact is he's not a man. He's not a manager of philosophy like Ten Hag, or he's not a manager of philosophy like Jose Mourinho or Guardiola. He's a man manager who's pretty good, and that's the kind of manager you would want to have in a team like PSG. Maybe a taskmaster might work, but might not work well for the longest period of time. Again, there'll be clash in egos, like what you saw with Manchester United. Cristiano Ronaldo just had to fight. The biggest name on that sheet had to fight with the manager. But now it's better. There's no big names on the sheet. When you have a taskmaster, you can have youngsters in the squad. But when you have so many big names, you need a man manager to make them do well. And on top of that, they need better signings, which actually fills up the squad, man. You can't really have 18 players who want to win league on Champions League and their domestic league. You need to have at least 22 players who you can rotate with name man to man. If you have no Messi, you have another man on the strike. I know most of the players might not get enough time on the pitch, but then you will have to take decisions like that. For example, look at Manchester City. They've been so successful in the Premier League because they've had a good squad depth. Real Madrid have a decent squad depth. Liverpool are struggling because they do not have a squad depth. So that is the bottom line of things. You need to have a squad depth in order to compete in all competitions, or else sooner than later you're going to fall off real bad.
Yeah, like you
Yeah,
said,
absolutely. And I
you
think you're right about that because Zinedine Zidane has been that player. I mean, has been that manager who's managed so many egos, and that was the issue with Real Madrid as well for a long time, wasn't it? Where I think it was Benzema and Ronaldo who were not agreeing with a lot of things, and there were a lot of egos there in that place. And I think right after Jose Mourinho left, that seemed like he left that club in a tumultuous position. But for him to come in, gel everyone together, I think that's the kind of manager they need. I think PSG did offer Zinedine Zidane a job, but he just wasn't ready. There's also claims that he is. There are the French FA is also looking for him to be the replacement for Didier Deschamps. I think Didier Deschamps does have a
I
one. He
think
does have
he
1
got
year
an
left.
extension. He got an
He
extension.
got
Didier Deschamps
extension till the
taken it.
Euros, if I'm not wrong. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's got extension to the Euros because of his performance in the World Cup. So I think that door is closed for now. So do you reckon now there is an opportunity for someone like Zinedine Zidane to come to this team?
maybe again, but I don't know. It's a risky project. The big names might, for that reason, hesitate to go to PSG because there are a lot of big names involved, and someone like Zidane might as well do it. I think.
I mean, he's right, especially when it comes to a manager of Zidane's stature. What does he bring into the fold? Number one, you need to have players who will be ready to, gel with Zidane. I think a lot of players respect Zidane, not because he's a
Yeah.
manager, just as a player. A lot of these players in the France national team or in PSG look up to Zidane growing up. They all have looked up to Zidane. Now that's the best part about it. Now, for example, I remember one of them disrespected Zidane very recently, and Mbappe was like, "You don't disrespect legends like that." I think it was Henry who was disrespected. I'm not sure. Mbappe did tweet that out very recently as well. I think someone disrespected Zidane in a bad way. I don't remember who it was, and Mbappe did tweet out saying that you don't disrespect a legend like that. So, see, there's a lot of respect for Zidane there, and that's the best part. When you have a big name coming in, and a big name with trophies now. Now it's not like Zidane is a manager who's young to his job. Three-peat man, no manager in the history of Champions League has done it in the modern football to win three-peat. Of course, I know he had such a beautiful team to do it so, but then he still did it, right? You still have to do it.
Yeah, I
Now
think
look
it
at
was
this
a
thing.
French. It was a French football president who had gone out to say something about Zinedine Zidane when he refused to take the offer, and that's when
Yeah.
Didier Deschamps had gotten an extension as well. So I think that's where Kylian Mbappe went out to say that you don't disrespect legends. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember this now. Yeah, correct. So when Zidane was offered that job, Zidane did reject it because Zidane is not excited about that project. Zidane is someone who's now looking for a new project. He looks like he's already accomplished everything in club football. I don't even know what he's there to do for Zidane. In such a young career, he's won 3 Champions Leagues, which a lot of managers dream to win in their entire career, at least one Champions League. So now for Zidane, it's all about a new challenge, which can actually thrive him. And I personally think him being the local man as well, he will really get along. He'll have a project in his eyes, and he's also a manager who will definitely help a lot of these egos to calm down. But I'm not sure if Zidane is going to come and Messi and Neymar and Mbappe are all going to be the same team. I think they should look beyond that. Look at a project for PSG maybe for the next 10 years. And maybe Mbappe can be used as a catalyst. I know Mbappe is very stubborn. Mbappe is very desperate. For his age, he has not faced downfall. I know he's faced with PSG, but he has faced success rather sooner than downfall. He has won the World Cup. He's been the top scorer of a World Cup. He's played a World Cup final. He's played a Champions League final. He's won almost everything at a very young age. Now, for him to face a tough time is something which is not there in his DNA. I think this is going to really mold Mbappe if he's going to stay in PSG. They've just also wanted him to go to Real Madrid, but I'm not sure if
But
move to a Real
that's the
Madrid will
worst
do
part
anything for
about
him.
this, isn't it? When that whole drama, so as to say, the controversy that happened with between Mbappe and Real Madrid, other clubs would have taken notice of this as well. Because mostly what ended up happening was Mbappe bounced off PSG, and it was basically an auction that took place between PSG and Real Madrid, where each team was throwing offer after offer, and PSG's offer turned out to be the biggest bid. Now, I don't know how many clubs are comfortable with that. I mean, probably Man United is the only club which is comfortable with that, who are ready to overpay. But I don't know if Eric Ten Hag, being the manager, will Mbappe ever go to a Man United, especially given the fact that Man United did disrespect, would you say, someone the likes of Kylian Mbappe, likes of Kylian Mbappe's idol in Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, isn't that going to be another issue for Mbappe to move forward to another club? Because Mbappe is not going to go to a club which is going to be below the ranks of PSG, or at least a title contender in the domestic tournament. So for him to go to a Premier League club, chances are very less. Italian football doesn't seem to have enough money. Juventus is struggling with their financials. They've just been docked 15 points. Inter Milan has debt to pay. It's not easy going there in Italian football. Same goes for.
Mbappe moves out of PSG, he's only going to go to Madrid. That's as simple as that.
But that's what, as you already mentioned, I don't think Madrid's ever going to go for.
Or else
Mbappe.
Manchester City.
Maybe.
I think I'm not
I'm
gonna.
just
But
saying
again, the issue with him going to Manchester City is, will Mbappe feel like Manchester City is a contender in the domestic tournament, in the domestic league? Because at least if not for one, and I'm not saying this without any disrespect to Manchester City, but that's the thing about Premier League, isn't it? There's always uncertainty about it. And
Like that.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, I understand.
you never know. I mean, Arsenal does have a history with French players. I mean, they are someone who has. Arsenal Wenger just love French players for so long that Arsenal and French players have this connection. But I really feel Mbappe is going to either go to Madrid or he's going to stay in PSG. I don't think he's going to go for.
Yeah,
a club
I mean,
in
he'll also
between.
prefer going to his dream club or stay in his boyhood club or wherever he's comfortable staying.
I think Mbappe's transfer is a question for the summer, and you cannot really say anything right now. I mean, and I think if Real Madrid goes on to win the Champions League, I think the chances increase, but you cannot really say right now, I think.
Yeah, that is a very important question out here, because if Real Madrid, if they don't do well in La Liga, we do not know what is La Liga all going to be about, because Barcelona are also facing a lot of issues when it comes to their squad depth and players not being in form. So anything can happen, because that match, the El Clasico, I know they're 9 points clear, but that El Clasico is going to decide a lot of things. And Copa del Rey, I know they're 1-0 down, but they're still not out of it. So they are still competing for 3 trophies at this point of stage, technically speaking, at least. If they don't win any of the trophies, now that'll be a trophyless season, right? That's a very bad season for a club like Real Madrid. They've spent a lot of money, but they've not actually spent enough money, which they've been saving as well. Now that's going to make Madrid very desperate. Now we know when Madrid gets desperate, they would want to go all out in the transfer market, and that's going to possibly open ways. Now we have a question on, I think, Bellingham. I think, yeah, that's a question we have as well.
Yeah.
We have a question on Bellingham. So
It's a very
Real Madrid
important question as well. Why aren't PSG looking to sign some of the wonder kids like Bellingham? Why invest in probably? I mean, Messi, Neymar, huge respect to them, but you are looking to create a future dynasty. And I don't know if Messi and Neymar are the kind of players who would fit into that system. Neymar, yes, back when you took Neymar into your team, yes, he did fit into that system. But then you brought in an Mbappe, then you brought in a Messi. That's just overcomplicating things, isn't it?
I mean, between Neymar and Mbappe and Messi, there have been a lot of signings which have, you can argue, failed a lot of the times. Looking at names like Bellingham, first problem with players like Bellingham is a lot of players playing for the big leagues don't want to come to France. They don't want to play in the French league. Then again, they did try signing players like Renato Sanchez, for example, which everybody thought would have been a hit, but just wasn't. And that's what I'm saying. The recruitment policy has been really shady. It has its some marks somewhere. I think Ekitike was a very intelligent signing, and it will pay off eventually. Then, but in the midfield again, I was surprised they didn't snatch Kamavinga when he was in France, and they let Real
Or
Madrid
Chouameni as well.
and Chouameni. So they should have focused on players like that. They should have tried to sign players like that. Instead, they went for Renato Sanchez, which I think was a gamble, but just did not pay off.
Yeah.
And
so
like they had
that is where
personalities-
you have to give credit to Madrid's policy as well, isn't it? I mean,
Correct.
what they do
That's-
really well is, yeah, go ahead, Austin.
That's where I wanted to get. You need a manager which can command their recruitment policies. You need a manager with that stature who can do it. And then again, coming back to Abel's point, a manager of Zidane's stature, he can really do that.
Exactly. And that's where I think Eric Ten Hag for United has been such a revelation, right? Now he wants players with his kind of identity, his kind of philosophy to come into the club. So he got in Anthony, he got in Licha, he got in Casemiro. He knew what he was building. Now, what is Galtier all about? I know he's got a lot of stature in terms of French domestic football, but is he the manager who's going to command with a certain philosophy? I certainly do not think so. When Galtier started off at the start of the season, I was very impressed because he put up a system which was more like a diamond system, which he had four and with 2-1 4-4-2-1. That's what he went in with. No, I think 4-3-2-1. That's what he went in with. Sorry, with Messi playing that attacking midfielder kind of a role, which was extremely good. But somewhere after the World Cup, that entire system tapered off. I was very shocked when he had no clue of what he was deploying after the World Cup. Similarly, now talking about policies of transfer, I think this question is very important. Why aren't PSG looking at the best wonder kids out there? There is someone called Kefem Thuram, who's I think Thuram's brother, and he's a very good center defensive midfielder who's actually balling it out there in the league on. They're not trying to get him either, or they're not trying to get someone like a Jonathan David, who's been very, very good with the French league, or Belgon, who's on loan from Arsenal as well. So there are a lot of these good youngsters who are playing in League One, and PSG are not even backing an eye on them. You just want
And
some big names
that's
like
also
that.
a point, isn't it, Abel? In a league like League you're not looking. Superstars are never going to come there. I mean, a Benzema who's doing so well in League. I mean, La Liga is never going to come there. A player in the Premier League who's doing well is not going to come there. Only players who are going to, either have something to prove, or players who have already in the end of their career or towards the end of their career will come to Liga. That's unfortunately the status of Liga in terms of European leagues. Now, if that's the case, then why don't you give chance to players like probably Jude
It's a
Bellingham
very important
or
point which Nath has put up as well. PSG are giving youth academy players a chance as they want to generate and get some revenues out of them by selling it off. So what he's trying to mean is he's trying to say that they're showcasing them on the big stage. So if someone gets impressed, so they can buy them off.
But then the issue with that isn't it also the factor that in a squad you have three class of players, right? Your starting 11, your super subs at least, are the ones you know will create an impact on the position that they are in, and then your youngsters who will be groomed through that. When you're 3-0 up or 4-0 up, or in a comfortable position, you give them that taste of what it's like to play in that in the higher stature of football. But now, in the
Yeah.
case of PSG, you have that starting 11, the super class of players, and then you have the youngsters. There's no in between, and there's no one to really, save those youngsters from those high pressure situations. Now you're throwing those youngsters into the lion's den, and that's not a good thing for even their development, because these mistakes that they do, they will remain with them for a long time to come, because these are huge mistakes for the club, and the club can't really afford them.
Correct. As I pointed out in the beginning itself, it's one thing to play your academy players, young players, and showcase their talent. It's another thing to put them on the spotlight in a Champions League game, and you cannot rely them during those big opportunities. You need players with experience. You need good experience when you're put under pressure on the pitch. And I remember in the summer sitting there, like they were signing Carlos Soler, they signed Ruiz, they signed Renato Sanchez. These were supposed to be good signings. These were supposed to be those middlemen, but they just couldn't be up to the mark. They just couldn't perform there.
Yeah, I mean, Soler now went to what? Wolves. Soler went to Wolves. He's nowhere he's out of the picture. Renato Sanchez, I can't even find him on the bench. Fabian Ruiz, who I expected to be the next big thing from Spanish football, is just a disappointment.
Fabian Ruiz, I mean, that signing was, I think, 2 years too late. I think.
Yeah, he's just slightly bit late. I thought they also were linked up with Milinkovic Savic at some stage, and he never leaves Lazio. I don't know why. He's such a good player. He's always linked up with a lot of teams, but he never leaves Lazio.
He was linked with Barcelona as well last summer.
Yes, and I think as Anand also mentioned regarding FFP, see what PSG has
That's a
done
very
good
valid
is
point there.
their net spend or the net profit when you put the account books, the
Yeah.
net spend is actually in equality with what they've actually bought players as well. Now, who all have they let go of? They let go of Maria, they've let go of Draxler, they've let go of Icardi, they've let go of so many players as well. So that is the question over here, right? Uh, are they managing their books in terms of making an equilibrium? Are they actually balancing it out? I think they are doing it, which we don't really see. Hence, there's no squad depth as well. It's not like they're getting all the players in the world and they're not selling anybody off. They're selling a lot of players. Now that means they are getting the new players in, and those new players are unable to deliver. Now that is their biggest problem at this point. Now the only way to get out of here is maybe build a squad of 20 to 23 people. I know it's gonna be a massive squad, but that need not be big names, as it's already mentioned, right? Maybe just
Yeah.
get rid of the big names, get a future project, maybe get Bellingham. They can get Bellingham. I don't think Bellingham is interested. Bellingham is almost there to sign for Liverpool because Bellingham is sold out by the Liverpool project, and he wants to come to England. That's one thing which is made very clear of.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. I
he
think we've
wants to go
spoken
to
about it
England
many
as
times
well.
on this live because
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate loves Premier League players. He does not care for a
Bellingham is your
word for
future
any
Liverpool
other
captain,
player.
like without a doubt. Bellingham is your future
Yeah.
Liverpool captain if he comes to Liverpool, and he's not very keen to go to a club. And see, one thing about Bellingham, which we all need to know, is he's not a player who likes to go to big clubs who has already established themselves. He wants to be a part of a project where he can actually build a team to success. Now, that is the best
Hmm.
part of Bellingham. If you've ever heard Bellingham's interviews, is so determined to make Dortmund win trophies. He's not determined. If he was given opportunity, he would have gone to Bayern, because when he was signed from Birmingham City, when Bayern was there in that race, he chose Dortmund because he believed that was a better option for him. So that is a mentality at which Bellingham plays football. So for that very reason, I personally think Bellingham will go to Liverpool, and Liverpool might be the ideal club for him. English football, English
But
boy.
in that
I think
case, I think he
they're
should
also
probably go
linked
to
with his
Spurs,
brother
no?
and his family as well. Sorry.
I think in that case, he should really go to Spurs.
No.
Nah. I think nobody's going to Spurs, bro.
No.
Nobody is going to Spurs unless Spurs do not know who the next manager is going to be. So I don't even know.
I
Spurs is
really think it's going to be there's going to be a Richarlison versus Antonio Conte battle, and whoever wins that probably gets a trophy.
There's a difference between a
But
football club and a participator, just for namesake. So that's the difference, bro. So that's what I'll just leave. I'm not
I
offending
think
any
there'll be a
Spurs
day.
fans.
There'll be a day able when Tottenham Hotspur wins the quadruple, and we'll all have to eat our words. But
What
that day is pretty
let's go
far.
with friendly trophies,
So
Audi Cup, Nike Cup, Asia Cup.
Asia
That'll be
Cup.
a good quadruple for them to win. Not kidding at all. I think the best possible opportunity for them. I
You
still
reckon
don't
Tottenham will
understand how
be?
the Spurs end up defeating City every season. Such a shit. I'm not.
No.
I'm not going that way. Such a team which barely wins matches ends up defeating City all the bloody time. I still don't understand how. They kind of baffles me, man. I seriously don't
I
understand
think
how.
City. You have to give credit to City. They bottled at the worst possible time, and yet somehow win the Premier League. I mean, you have to give it to the Premier League to create the drama for Man City. I think they just love drama. I mean,
Sounds
just look
wrong.
at Pep Guardiola. He's
That
created
sounds
two
wrong there
assistant
in the
managers.
context. I mean, you just said Premier League wanted to create the drama. Now that sounds like we are involved in corruption as well. So let's just not go that way.
No,
Let's just
I
not.
mean, my point being, strictly metaphorical. My point being, look at Pep Guardiola. He's created two assistant managers in Eric Ten Hag, Mikel Arteta, given them two clubs, and then he's competing against them in
He's
the Premier
bored.
League
He's
now.
bored.
So
That's the thing. He's just bored at this
He's
point.
creating competition for himself now.
yeah, I think
Yeah, that's
that's why
what.
you have to.
Yeah, we did talk about this as well as we were going along in the live as to how they were charged of corruption. We will have a separate live on that. I think we did deal with it in brief. I think we just need to learn more on what the exact situation is like. But talking about which, coming back to PSG as well, what do you think could be the possible way in which they can get a premier youngster, groom them, or maybe groom Emery for the next 5 years and see how he goes about it?
Emery, I think, is gonna be a long project. Obviously, he's very young. He is very talented. I think they need to sell the players. They're not performing very well. I mean, it's been very obvious now. And is the recruitment policy again? I just keep coming back to that again and again. They really need to think it out more.
Yeah, I mean that's what I personally think. Yeah, Jared.
I think also probably you also have to see from where PSG's come from, right? They weren't one of the biggest clubs in Europe for a long time, and in that sense, they don't have the history yet of winning a trophy. But I think that's pretty much it. We've covered almost all aspects. But here's
And
hoping
before
that
we end, I
PSG
think we
will not.
can talk about possible way in which PSG can sell out Messi to Barcelona. Do you think that's happening?
Sell out? I don't think so. He's already
Oh,
under
he's running out of a
contract.
contract, right? Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, I think
maybe.
Messi is going to run his contract out because if you have to go to if Barcelona were to really buy Messi from PSG, they would have to sell a lot more than
Whichever
just
team is buying Neymar, they have a thing
Yeah.
that he's not available from February to what, June, all the
Yeah, he's
every
gone on loan. Yeah.
throughout the year
Yeah.
he won't be available from February to May. So Champions League first legs he's not playing round of 16. So that's one thing in his contract, off from February right in the middle of the season. So that's one thing which
Yeah.
clubs should be able to take. Whichever club
Yeah,
is
I think
buying him.
Chelsea will be fine with that. From what we're hearing, it's Chelsea who wants to buy him, and Todd Boehly has brought a lot of players are not available. So just one more to the list, one more to add it to the infirmary in Chelsea Football Club. But yeah, speaking about Messi going to Barcelona, if it is a transfer where Messi's contract is still existing, I think Barcelona will have to sell a lot more than just their chairs in Camp Nou to get the likes of Messi back. So it has to be
He had to go
end of a
there.
contract.
I
And
think the
but yeah,
Spotify deal is something. I mean, what for a lot of people who do not know, so Spanish football. I mean, as again Tebas strikes, he has now imposed a particular restriction on pulling the lever. Now, if you're selling
Yeah.
out a particular asset, now what Barca did the last season was they sold off their TV rights and they use the entire amount on the transfer market. Now you've been imposed a restriction, even if you're selling off certain amount of money, whatever stakes you're getting after sellout, you can only use 10% of it on the transfer market. Previously, you could use any amount. That's the amount which you had in hand. Now, Tebas all of a sudden was like, now Barcelona are really not buying and they're really involved in transfer market. Let's put a certain pause. Now, that's what is really gone against Barcelona. And once again, Barcelona is still not debt free, guys. Let's be very clear on that. Barcelona still have the debt. They just sold off their TV rights to make things look very good that they have some sort of money. They got in Kunde, they got in Christensen, they got in they got in Rafinha, they got in these players by just pulling out the lever. Now, what's going to happen is they cannot do that in the next season, and I think they have to raise close to 178 million. But provided that, what's the thing now? Now, for Barcelona's liking, the stadiums after COVID-19 have been full again, right?
Yeah.
80,000 is Barcelona's average capacity, which you did not have in those 3 years. 80,000 for 45 to 50 games, maybe if your ticket is 250 euros at an average, you can generate close to 300 million just on ticketing revenue.
Yeah.
Just on ticketing, just nothing else. Just on ticketing, you can raise close to 300 million euros. And to add to that, jerseys. Now, Barcelona's jerseys are selling out. Look at me, even I have brought it. So I'm also paying them. I'm also taking Spotify premium subscription to help Barcelona to do better as well. So
I think soon April will be
I'm-
having his wedding at Camp Nou as well, just to add
Yeah.
to the trio, the
just
package.
to add to that, just to help
Yeah.
everything.
I think they're also looking to sell some players. I think they're gonna get rid of probably Sergio Roberto and Ferran Torres. There have been reports about Ferran Torres and Sufati.
I think
And
Sergio Busquets is also looking to leave this season, if I'm not wrong.
probably, but I think Sergio Busquets is a kind of player you want
You want,
in
yeah.
your squad. I strongly believe I don't care if he's if he, I mean he is performing right now, but even if he's not if he is underperforming, if he's proving to be underwhelming in certain games, I think he's a player you should keep in your team. I think he should be there in the squad. But then again, I think getting rid of some of the players will create some room, some wages. I don't think enough for Messi though. But yeah, that
I
is
like
that
the
is
look
one.
that Abel gave you. It's a look of
I mean, he's also a Barca fan, right? So we both.
how dare you break my dream? But
Nah,
really
nah,
hope
nah.
Messi
But
ends it in the blog. I
but
really
that
hope,
was
because I think almost every football fan will be a poetic ending to Messi's career if he ends it
Yeah.
in the Camp Nou, because he's been
I
created there. He's so much memories in Barcelona, the city itself, not to forget Camp Nou. So, but yeah,
I don't
having said that, that's pretty much it. Yeah, go ahead, Austin.
yeah,
I'm so sorry to
I
cutting
don't
you off.
see how, as a football fan, you can not want to see Messi playing with Lewandowski, Gavi, Pedri,
Yeah.
Busquets in that system.
Yeah.
I just cannot.
I just want to see that one last dance. I mean, that's all I care. I just want Messi to take the number 10 jersey and just ball it around for one last time,
Yeah.
and Ansu to leave the club because I'm done with that guy. I mean, I've given him enough
Oh,
chances. I'm giving him
I think we
immense,
have Ansu
a
has to
lot of
first leave the
chances.
hospital.
Now, this is a
And
fan me speaking,
once
okay? I'm not going to speak as an analyst anymore. I've given him enough chances to watch him. I can't tolerate anymore. And Ferran Torres as well. I've given him enough chances, and the penalty miss which he had last week was on top of it. I'm like, bro, just get out of the club right now. I mean, that is it. But to be very fair, I think Barcelona will be looking to get in some youngsters once again to actually blood in a lot more youngsters and mix it up with some bit of experience. So I think one of the players they are looking at is Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen, and he's been a fantastic footballer. One of my
But I
favorites to
think
watch in Bundesliga.
yeah, I think his wages will be a little too high. I think it'll be hard to manage again if the selling of the players does happen. I think that will help. Florian Wirtz is actually a big name, to be honest. He's not a small player. He's not a mid player. And they're also looking at other youngsters. I forgot.
He's considered to be the next Jamal Musiala for the liking, at least. He's very young. He's 18 years old, and he's one of the
Jamal
best
Musiala
players.
very talented.
I don't know if you can really
Yeah,
call
I know
Jamal
Jamal
Musiala
Musiala
a
is not
big
himself a big deal, but the fact is that he's got a very similar profile.
I think he is a big deal.
Yeah.
Jamal Musiala, I know,
I
but
think
yeah,
he's a big deal.
what I mean to say is Jamal Musiala is still compared to Kaka and others. I think it's a little too much to say someone is of Jamal Musiala's level, but to say the least, I think Florian Wirtz is German. That's the best thing. Jamal Musiala is not. But and so he against teams who maintain low block and mid block is fantastic. A proper player who can make the in behind runs. I think he'll fit in the system if you're playing Gavi, Pedri, and Ritz. Then you can have De Jong as your pivot and then see the ball happen. Then the ball is going to get rolling in Barcelona.
And we are, of course, already looking for Sergio Busquets replacements. So
I mean,
I think
that is one possibility. I think they're looking at Endika.
no. I'm not saying that it can be his replacement. Certainly not. I think De Jong can be looking at that role.
I mean, yeah, he did. You didn't mention about Sergio Busquets leaving the club, right? I'll give you one example. How the game against Real Madrid, you saw how Busquets' involvement. I'm not just saying that Busquets was out for injury for 3 weeks prior to that, and once he came back, there was a lot of composure and structure in Barcelona. I don't see any other player in the world who has so much of game awareness and so much of calmness on the ball. It's not that he's the most modern CDM, right? The modern CDM is all about physicality, about pressure. He's so good. He can do that one touch pin pass, like one
Yeah.
touch passes. So good at that.
He controls the game.
I mean, he is like the conductor of an orchestra, isn't it? Whenever he's in form, whenever he's on song. But
And that's why I want to make a point that there is no player in the world of a similar profile. Now, what Barcelona are trying to do is they have taken up this 15-year-old kid and they're trying to manufacture him to be the next Busquets.
yeah.
So, what I'm trying to mean by manufacture him is that they've like produce a player in the lab in La Masia. So, this guy, I forgot his name. I'll just tell you the name if I find it. So, this guy who plays for Barcelona in La Masia, they find him to be the next Busquets. He's 6 feet. He's already 6 feet at 15, and he's 6 feet at 15. That's the best part. He's only 6 feet at 15, and they see a lot of traits in him which are more Busquets-like. And so, what Barcelona want is they know they can't get another Busquets on the market. So, why don't we manufacture a Busquets? So, they're telling him it's okay, you failed, just keep playing in that same position time and time again, time and time again. And there's a lot of things to like about him. So, Rodri is one player who comes very similar to Busquets, but it's still not Busquets. Busquets is a different thing. Busquets at his peak was nobody like Busquets. So that's something which Barcelona are trying to manufacture out of this guy in La Masia. But at the same time, one thing which I find is that when you talk about Busquets, when you talk about other players in the world, are you looking at a system where you want players like that, or you are looking at a more advanced system? Because the Busquets kind of system, see, Pep Guardiola is the one who started this. Okay, when Pep used to play for Barcelona, he's the one who started that CDM. He was a proper CDM who had a lot of composure. He was a Busquets before Busquets. And after that, people started looking up to that position. A guy who could control the entire game, run the orchestra through the middle. And that's why Pep Guardiola, when he took over the team as well, he gave a lot of liking towards Busquets because he understood he's someone who's very similar to what he was during his playing days. And Busquets did not become a success overnight. Busquets became a success after playing for what 3 good years. He was not successful. Then after that, he replaced Yaya Toure in that particular lineup. Then he became a success slowly and steadily. It is not like Busquets came and he became a star straight up. He was not a wonder kid like what you see from Gavi, Pedri, and others as well. So similarly, when we talk about it, when you manufacture a player like Busquets in your lab or in La Masia, which I think is a lab in itself because they've been producing talents left, right, and center. I think when you produce a player like that, I think you need to have so much of patience. You need to wait. I don't think there'll be another Busquets. So De Jong can do a deep line midfielder job, but he can never be a Busquets. He can never be a Busquets. But De Jong is a fantastic guy to do it, but you need a backup for that. That's why I think Barcelona will have to go into the market. I think they're trying to get Zubi Mendy from Real Sociedad.
I think there was also a report of Barcelona eyeing Laporta and Rodri from Man City, but I don't know after all these allegations, after all the charges being imposed, I don't know what's gonna happen now.
Yeah, I think similarly talking about PSG as well, just connecting the dots. I think they will also they'll have to manufacture players on their academy now. Look at the future. I know it should be a 10-year project rather than having a 1 year, 2 year project. It doesn't work like that in football, man. It just doesn't work like having 1 year projects. For example, Liverpool's project started in 2015 for them to win the Champions League in 2020, 2019
Yeah.
rather. So you look at the time, right? 4 long years. So in 4 long years, a lot of things can happen. Now, Manchester City is coming to the end of their cycle which started in 2017, the 5 year project. Now they're looking at a new regent format or regent project with new players in that squad. That's why also looking at Bellingham. They're also looking at youngsters to come in. They're also looking. They're also wanting to let go of Julian Alvarez now. So a lot of these things are also there. So it's a 5 year project always, and how successful you stand at the end of the 5 years. PSG have been desperate for every year. That does not happen. Maybe it might happen in cricket, but not in football, of course.
Yeah, I think that's also because in football, you in cricket you have what three linings before you have a player who's ready. There's club cricket, then there is the domestic season, then you go on to play for your country.
I'll
So
just
you
give you a
already
very
fully
simple
developed.
example for a lot of viewers who do not know cricket. Chennai Super Kings assembled a squad with what 35-year-old plus people, and they won the league that season. It's very
But
easy
that's
to
because
happen.
of the auction. That is
Yeah.
because of the auction dynamics, isn't it? You
See, that's
have
my whole point. In cricket, you can build a squad for that particular year.
absolutely,
But in football, you
absolutely.
can't do that.
You can't because you are the ones who are creating the talent. It's not like the talent is given to you as in cricket you have established institutions that create the talent, domestic
There's a lot of
tournaments or
chemistry
club.
involved in football. I think.
Exactly. I mean, it comes through club cricket, then you have the domestic cricket. You have a player who's gone through three different stages before he comes to the limelight to us. But in football, a player is picked right from his school days and put onto the pitch. So there's a lot more development that goes on in front of the public eye than compared to cricket. But I think that's pretty much it. 1 hour, we've covered almost everything from PSG to Barcelona to Man City to I think almost everything. But thank you guys for joining us, and thank you, Austin, for
It's
joining
very
us as well.
interactive. I think three
Thank
people
you.
live worked well. It's been very
Yeah, it did.
interactive
It
and fun
absolutely
as
did.
well. I mean, not
Yeah, I
stabbed
think
much.
I think we always have three people for cricket. We've never had three for football, so it was great of you to join us, Austin. But thank
Thanks.
you guys for joining, as I've been saying for a long time now. But make sure you guys download Boom 11 from the Apple App Store and Google Play Store before you leave, because it can be a rewarding experience without having to spend any money, and you might just get some money in your pocket by the time you have finished playing it, because that's how it works. That's how the reward system works. Just be smart, and if you think you can do a lot better than what Galtier has done, maybe then you can give it a try at our fantasy app. So, with that being said, we'll be back
I think I can
soon.
make a better fantasy team on Boom 11 than what Galtier has built, man. Absolutely ridiculous. My formation is going to be better. Maybe Galtier can learn from me. And Galtier should take a FIFA career mode class from me.
Galtier, if you're watching,
Yeah.
Abel here is going to be gunning for your job. Zinedine Zidane, move aside, scoot away. Abel
I
might
just won a
just come.
Champions League with what Newcastle United last week. What are you talking about? No, we
As we
can't
know,
hear
Abel
me.
is a huge fan of oil money clubs. He loves playing them on FIFA. Uh,
I'm managing Arsenal now, guys. Never mind.
that I think that's a tip to say that Arsenal is also going to be expecting investment. But thank you for joining